Okay, so we'll start off now. So welcome everyone. Great to have everyone here. Um, so today we'd really like to encourage everyone to get using that chat or Q&A function that we've got in Teams, as we want this to be as interactive as possible. You can maybe kick us off with something like posting where you're joining from. I'm in a grey looking Norwich today. So also just to note, we are recording this session and it will go out on our YouTube channel at a later date. So today's webinar is all about Microsoft Viva and how it can help to improve your company's employee experience. So some introductions. On the call today, we've got Bob Cope from Beazley. So Bob's a technical strategist and an all-round great guy who works for Beazley. They are a specialist insurer whose company vision is to be the highest performing sustainable specialist insurer. Now, this is actually really important when we're talking about Viva and the employee experience, because to have a high performing teams, we really need to focus on having high performing people, and the employee experience is so key to all of this. But more on that later. We're also have the brilliant Holly Kay joining us, who is a cloud specialist at Microsoft. So she helps organizations with their collaboration, security and employee experience capabilities. And I've been working with both Bob and Holly for a while now, and it's great to have them both on the call today. And obviously myself, Jack Fisher, I'm an M365 consultant with Nasstar, and I'm a Microsoft Viva specialist here. So I've got a varied background in sort of all things Microsoft, but Viva is really a passion for me. And I love introducing it to organizations and helping them understand, realize and implement exceptional employee experience is across their organization and ensure that it's adopted successfully, which is really important. I'm a real advocate for Microsoft Viva, and I blog about it, try and speak at events about it as much as possible, and do that as much as I can to help spread the word about all the great things that it can bring to people and organizations. So format for this webinar isn't just us sitting here showing you slides, although there is some of that at the start. But what we really want is for you to get involved as much as possible. So please get in that chat and the Q&A and ask us as many questions as you can. We'll be monitoring it and the chat and answers as we go. So after a quick intro to Viva and what it is, I'll be opening this up to discussion points, and your participation is really important. We will generally talk about and discuss how ourselves, Microsoft and Beazley have begun on this Microsoft Viva journey, and it is a beginning, as Viva is something that needs time and experience to implement it properly. So that's the intros. Next, enough of me talking about that and what Viva is, but we'll go over a quick overview of what it is, what's coming, etc. So 2 years ago, Microsoft announced Microsoft Viva as a suite of products all based on helping organizations to deliver great employee experiences within the flow of work in Microsoft Teams, where a lot of us spend a lot of time every day. So it started off with the 4 that you can see on the screen here. So Viva Connections, all about building on your culture and communications, bringing your sort of SharePoint intranet experience into Teams, but also bringing the information that's relevant to people through the dashboard and the Viva Connections feed. We've then got Viva Insights. So this is all about productivity, well-being, collaboration patterns, and you can look at that from the individual level. So insights at the individual level with booking things like focus time, doing your daily commute and things like that. You then get that managerial level insights where you can see how your teams are collaborating. You can set up plans for no meeting days and things like that. And then you get that leadership level sort of bird's eye view of how your entire organization collaborates. You can look at things like the cost of long and large bloated meetings, the risk of burnout for employees, managers and one-to-one relationships, etc. We've then got Viva Topics, which is about bringing knowledge and expertise to your people through the use of AI. And then Viva Learning, which is all about skilling and growing your employees. But over the last year, especially, it's grown and it now looks a little bit more like this. So we've added something called Viva Goals, which is shared goals and priorities, which is about bringing alignment to your employees through the use of OKRs, which is objectives and key results. We've got Viva Sales. So this is the first of the role-specific Viva products, and it's a really impressive piece of technology. And the AI engine that sits behind it is quite something. And then Viva Engage, which gives employees a place to connect, express themselves, and find belonging at work. So it's very recently, they've just announced that Yammer is fully rebranding to Viva Engage. So everything Yammer will become Viva Engage. And that's bringing it all into Teams again. That's really important. All of these Viva things get brought into Teams in the flow of work. And we've got a really exciting year ahead of us with even more coming to Viva this year with things like Amplify, Viva Pulse, and a whole lot more. So watch this space for more info on that. Now, I don't want to just talk about all of these different products that make up Microsoft Viva, or we could be here for ages doing deep dives into all of them. We've done other webinars on things like that. So when we talk about Viva, I think it's really good to frame it this way. And if you focus the Microsoft employee experience into 4 groupings, it's much easier to digest. So you've got connections, insights, purpose, and growth. So connection will have those things like Viva Engage and soon to be Viva Amplify. Insights is obviously Viva Insights and things coming to it like Viva Pulse. At the moment, the purpose pillar is Viva Goals, and then growth, you've got Viva Topics and Viva Learning. And then you'll have those role specific experience I talked about with things like Viva Sales, and Viva Connections will kind of sit above all of this and be like a hub to direct you to what's relevant. Again, it's all about the empowerment of your employees, and it will help different business units to start to work together more cohesively. So now I've spoken enough about what Viva is, but let's talk to you about how you can approach Microsoft Viva and the employee experience from the very beginning. So like I said, we encourage those of you listening live today to get involved, ask questions and put them in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer them all as we go. So on to the discussion. Have we got anything in the chat or Q&A yet?
Not at the moment, so I'm happy to kick off with the first question.
Go for it.
So both this is to Bob, but then also Jack and your experience as well. So how did you get started on your Viva journey?
So for us, the initial impetus came from our CTO, our CEO. They wanted to understand the capabilities of Viva. They wanted to understand if Microsoft had a capability to report on how effectively we collaborated with each other, and the effectiveness of the tool set, I guess, that we were providing them. I guess like everyone else, when the pandemic struck, we had to mobilise our workforce pretty quickly. You know, we're a global organisation, and we wanted to understand if we were achieving our aims and objectives as quickly as practically possible. So we approached you guys, Holly, Microsoft, for some recommended organisations with the necessary experience that could help us understand the capability. And you introduced us to Nasstar, and the rest is history, as far as that's concerned.
Perfect. And I've actually just had a question here from Jess. And so Jess is just saying, what makes Viva better than a regular cloud-based intranet? So probably a question for both of you.
Yeah, sure. So if I'll jump in, and then Bob, you can add anything that you think as well, because you guys are actually, you've set up Viva Connections and have a very similar sort of thing going anyway. So Viva Connections when we're discussing it in regards to the intranet side of things, I think the value you get there is you're not going outside of Teams, which is that's true for all of the Viva products. So rather than, you know, an article gets posted, you get an email about it, you got to click through, opens up a web browser, you go to there, it's all within Teams. So when you get, I don't know about you, but the first thing I do when I get in the morning is fire up Teams, and straight away you can have that app pinned at the top left, go straight to the intranet, and you've got that information right at your fingertips, all within Teams. And the next great part about it is the ability in the Viva Connections dashboard and the Viva Connections feed is actually bringing the information that's relevant to you. So you can target different news articles, different adaptive cards within the dashboard with links to other systems. There's an API integration there, so you can have holiday bookings straight through for you. And it just means that you can have all of this different content, and rather than it being a blanket everyone needs to go and sift through to find it, that content that is relevant to you gets brought to you. So that's where I see the real value there.
Yeah, our experience, Jack, has been very, very similar to that. I guess the initial impact was with our creatives. You know, got an intranet, and they're all very creative, and they want to do their thing on the intranet. And they initially found, I think, that the Viva components were a little bit intrusive and a little bit holding them back from their creative studies, if you like. But once they understood how powerful it was and how quickly it actually delivered the content from a space that everybody logged into first thing in the morning, then it quickly took off. Because like you say, most people launch Teams in the morning. They want to, you know, either connect with their colleagues, other parts of the business very quickly. They found that less intrusive initially than they did with an intranet splash page firing up as soon as they log into their workstation. So yeah, pretty much, I'd agree with that. Pretty much is the reason why.
Yeah. One other thing I think that's really great is there's a lot of integrations coming from the other areas of Viva into Viva Connections. So you're going to be able to have like Viva Insights, adaptive cards brought to you through the Viva Connections dashboard. I think there's going to be like goals integration. So if you're using Viva Goals, you could have a dashboard card that pops up that says, hey, don't forget to check in your goal. It's Monday morning, 9 a.m. Where are you with it? Quickly update it from there and things like that. So it's how it then integrates to other parts of the Microsoft ecosystem that's really interesting as well.
Brilliant. Thank you both very much for that. So got the questions coming in. So another one. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought you say something. So I had another one here from Michael. So hi, I was just wondering what licenses are needed to access Viva. I mean, Jack, you might want to go into more detail on this, but so there are some elements that are already included as part of Microsoft 365. So like your connections, engage, you have elements of the other bits, so like more basic parts. So things like insights and topics, you have basic elements of it, but then you have the add-ons that you can have on top of that. I mean, Jack, is there anything else that you want to add to that?
No, that's right. Like you say, some bits you get for free or included in your Microsoft 365 license.
Sounds better, free.
Yeah, exactly. Other bits are those premium features. There's also, so it depends how you want to license it. So you can license it via buying individual Viva apps, or you can buy a Viva Suite license. I've got a slide on it later on if we didn't get many questions. It looks like the questions are coming in thick and fast though, so we might not get to that slide. But yeah, you can buy a Suite license, which actually gives you almost all of the Viva products for one price. And currently, until I think July this year, is heavily discounted. It's about half price. Basically, if you're going to have more than one of the premium Viva licenses, you're best off getting the Suite license and get locked in at that pricing before July.
Absolutely. So the next question we have is from Kelsey. So do you see Viva taking over from learning management systems? For example, could it assign and report learning?
It's an interesting one, that. I don't think it's there to take over from LMS, from learning management systems. It's there to enhance them. So Viva Learning's, I think, sort of touted as a learning experience platform rather than a learning management system. And it's how you can integrate your existing LMS into an experience within Teams. Rather than think of it taking over your LMS, it's to boost and superpower your LMS. It gets people using your LMS and absorbing training content. I think, in fact, there's a great case study from Microsoft using it, Holly, where the stats of people taking elective learning courses just shot through the roof. As soon as you put it in Teams, all of that course content was there before. I think you use SAP SuccessFactors. All of that information was there before. People could have gone and started doing learning courses. But it was, again, it's a bit like that intranet having to go somewhere else to do it. People don't think about it. Whereas if it's in Teams, and if you can share it in Teams, you can pin it to a Teams channel, you can share it to colleagues. Like, it doesn't also just have to be manager driven, it can be just peer driven. So you can share, if you watched a really great course on something that would help colleagues, you can share it with them, and getting that elective learning stat up. So people who actually are just off their own back going off and wanting to learn, that's where the value is. So I don't think it will replace LMS, but I think it will enhance it. But who
Yeah.
knows? Microsoft might take over the world and be an LMS as well. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, absolutely. And I think also it's sort of the idea of, like, particularly with we're thinking about use cases, so new employees, onboarding them, like the idea of just one central place, easy to go to. If you have a buddy system, like, you know, as Jack was saying, like being able to say, oh, this video is really good, I found this bit really handy, you know, anything like that. And then also how it goes into LinkedIn Learning as well. So yeah, that's where I think the real value definitely comes into it. Okie dokies, on to the next question. They're coming through thick and fast. This is great. So how are you currently measuring employee experiences, and how do you attribute this to various Viva features? So Bob, I reckon this one's for you.
So we are still very much in a pilot stage with a distinct group of users, and we're focusing on well-being as the mainstay. In truth, a lot of the other products are fairly easy to get integrated into your system if you have some of those systems already in place. So getting integrated with our intranet was fairly straightforward. Our learning management system was fairly straightforward. And as Jack said, it brought all of those things together under a single portal. So we're very much focused at the moment on user well-being and understanding how we can not only promote better well-being, a better interaction, better collaboration, but also how we can put a strategy in place, I guess, that will allow us to keep that thing moving forward. So at the moment, we are very focused on that piece of it.
Yeah, it's a great question. I like the bit about how do you attribute this to various Viva features. That's a really interesting one. I think it depends on, like Bob said, what are you trying to get out of it? Because there's different elements from it, like that connection, insights, purpose, and growth. Well-being being one of those, which is really great from the insights point, and also the growth, because if people have the ability to grow in the business, then they're going to be more engaged, they're going to have a better sense of well-being, etc. So measuring it is a really interesting one, and I'm going to have a very good think about that and maybe write a blog article on it to come back to you, because there's a lot of different ways that you can measure it. Some of it's built into the features already. Other ways of doing it would be to maybe put things into Power BI yourself and get a more cohesive view of how all of the different areas do and split them up. But yeah, that's a great question. And I will come back to you. Who asked that? Paul. I've only got a first name, but stand by and we'll reach out after as well.
One of the great things we observed was we went into it with a little bit of apprehension. I think, you know, like I remember sitting there with you, Jack, thinking, oh, what's this first report going to look like? Yeah. What are these first stats going to look like? And one of the things that we got from the initial workshop when we put our first when we looked at our first sets of stats was, actually, we're pretty good at this stuff. We didn't really, it was a big morale booster. And that was quite exciting because that provided a little bit more impetus and got people engaged a little bit more and wanted to know a bit more. So it's that first set of stats that really helped us look at what we should be focusing on a little bit further down the line.
Brilliant.
Yeah, right. I think it's great that actually you could use it as a validation. It doesn't mean that everything's wrong and, you know, God, we're terrible at doing this. Actually, you might find we're really good at this. So but that will then help you identify what you're doing really well and make sure you concentrate and focus on that. And then if you're using something like Viva Goals, then make that part of your goal and have an objective to continue doing that and build upon what you're already doing great and make it better.
Absolutely. So this next question, I think, could potentially feed quite nicely into the workshop side of things. So a question for Mark. How do we best understand what Viva can do for our organisation? We have Microsoft from a Teams Office perspective. We have separate contact through Engage, LinkedIn Learning, recruitment, etc. Can you really help us bring this all together and utilise it fully? So I think maybe, I mean, this could be a conversation we start talking about the workshops as well that we can look at.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best way of doing that. If you're looking how to understand how Viva can do all of these things for you and do it cohesively, the workshops are a great start. That's how we started with Beazley and Bob. we're now into a pilot phase, but the workshop phase before that is kind of that art of the possible view of things. There's 2 available workshops. I will talk about them at the end. But there's like the whole Viva overall one, which looks at all of the different modules of Viva. We do a sort of overview, art of the possible of the whole lot, and then as the client, you can then pick 2 or 3 different modules that you want to do more of a deep dive into, and we can go into further detail on those, because like I said, Viva grows so rapidly and so quickly. There's so much, so it's good to then focus in on the ones that you're really interested in. And then there's also a separate Viva Insights one, which is just purely focused on Viva Insights, because that's such a massive thing as well. But I mean, Bob's been through the workshop, so do you want to have a
yeah, I mean, we've done both of those, haven't we? We looked at the business side of it, and we looked at the technical side of it. And the technical side is very interesting. The data parts of it are very, very interesting. I think the business elements of it, the bits where you have to engage with the business, can be a little bit challenging if you haven't, as in our case, briefed them quickly enough. We got so excited about what we were seeing, we forgot to actually tell some people that actually we might like their input. So that was quite fun. But once they saw its capability, they very, very quickly got excited about what it could deliver for the business. And that was, I think it's all about your desire to make it work. We want it to work for Beazley, and because of that, we will engage with the business. If you don't want it to work, it's like anything else. It's not going to.
Yeah. And like you say, that involving all of the different areas of the business, that's one of the real positive things that can come from it, I think, because it might be that, you know, maybe IT didn't speak that or work that closely with the people and culture department before, but this kind of enforces that interaction and that collaboration together, and you can just see how you can help each other in different ways, which I think is really, really powerful, actually.
Yeah, I think something really important is that it shouldn't be IT led. It does need to be business led. Bear that in mind. IT can get very excited if you're a data guy or a data scientist, or you're someone like me who likes analysis. You can get very excited about what you see in front of you, but it very much is about the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a business case perspective, if anybody on the call is starting at that point where they're like, Viva sounds great, this is something that we want for the business, but it's like, how do we bring the business on the journey? How do we get them to see the value? Because as we've discussed, Viva is new. Even though it's been around for 2 years, it's expanding, continuing, and it's a new concept on how we work. So it's not like it's a direct replacement for something else, which is often where business cases can start. So having the output from the workshops is a really valuable part to put in the business case. And as Bob said, like winning the hearts and minds of the business, bringing them on the journey, because that is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. So we actually have another question down here from Vicky. So is Leadership Corner requiring the Viva Suite license for all leaders?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it absolutely will need the Viva Suite license, because you get Viva Engage included in your M365 license, but these are sort of the premium features that are coming to Viva Engage. So things like Leadership Corner, and the Ask Me Anything type questions and answer that you can put in that Leadership Corner and things like that will be part of the paid for license. I can't remember. It might have literally been announced yesterday. I can't remember, but I will double check and send some comms out after this along with the actual licensing for it. But it's very new, but yes, it will be a premium feature.
Yeah. Brilliant. So the next question that I've got here. So obviously we just talked about the workshops, and then it was moving on to the pilot phase, Bob. So how did it go with implementing the pilot, and how was the pilot structured?
So the pilot consists of a relatively small subset of business and IT users, 250 initially. But given the flexible nature of the product, some of the elements were available to the whole organisation. So because we're an M365 E5 user, some of those capabilities are available. So about 3,500-4,000 users. The core pilot, though, is focused upon the delivery and analysis of the capability of what used to be known, I guess, as workplace analytics, you know, before it moved into Viva. It's looking at things like how we can improve engagement, build better relationships, become better at decision making, but also there are areas where we could be managing our costs better. So, you know, as Jack alluded to, managing our time better means a reduction in cost. Well, most of the time. Aside from this, we also enabled the Viva learnings and integrated it with our learning partners. That was seamless. I have to say that was seamless. That was not a problem at all. Viva topics in discovery mode to get a good view of how we could do better and manage our knowledge and sharing and user engagement better. And then we're looking at Viva Connections to understand its capabilities, help us to improve sort of our insights, learnings, goals. It's been a great journey so far, but there's still lots to do, and it is a journey. I mean, Viva very much is a journey, not only because I think the more you see, the more areas you think, actually, this could really benefit us. But also, Holly, Microsoft do like to move the goalposts, add new features, refine some other bits and pieces, and so you suddenly have to think, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't see that before. I might need to tweak something. And so it's a great journey, though. I can't say otherwise.
Perfect. And then my next question was, what has been something that's been a challenge with the Viva deployment so far, perhaps something that you weren't expecting?
That's a good question, that one. I'm hoping that you've got broad shoulders.
Yeah, go for it.
So the biggest issue or challenge, if you like, was actually getting some of the data about our business into the system. I know Jack and I worked long and hard on this. When we started both workshop and pilot, Viva Insights was in that transition stage between workspace analytics and what it is now. While the tools to get the data into the system were pretty good, you had to undertake quite a lot of finessing to get it ready to be capable of being referenced correctly. That wasn't a chore so much as a bit of a challenge, to be fair. Now, the other part of that is, while it's not a mandatory requirement to get all of that data in there, some of the data is pretty sensitive. So if you want to get the full overview of how your business is operating, some of that is pretty sensitive. So things like rates of pay, people don't like one person knowing what everybody gets paid. So this meant that we needed to involve HR or talent management in the whole data import process, and that slowed the whole thing down a little bit. And I guess we thought there might be tighter integrations into our finance and our HR systems. Now, once it's in there, it's great. It's absolutely great. But that part of it was a little cumbersome. I mean, the benefits certainly outweigh those negative pieces. It did take Jack and I a little while to work through that, and I've been reliably informed by Jack that's been addressed in the new version of Viva. But yeah, that was the biggest challenge. Once it was in there, it was absolutely great. You've also got that process whereby you have to keep refreshing it, and that having some automated way of refreshing that data, particularly if you're talking about, you know, joiners, movers, leavers, that needs to be. So that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah, an integration there would really help to like those big HR system players that everyone seems to use. That would just have that sync automatically, rather than having to CSV export it out, do this, do that, because that would also then negate that whole sensitive information thing, because it could take it straight from there. You or I, as the IT or the consultant, wouldn't have to see that information until it's all anonymized and served up through Viva Insights. So yeah, I'll keep asking Microsoft to do that. I'm sure it could.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll keep fast and going through. But I think it's good to talk about these things, though, especially like when we're talking about this discussion is sort of telling everybody the reality of it and implementing a new tool. So we do have to talk about these things as well. And it's not that it made it that it was impossible. It's just, again, working with a great partner like Nasstar to get over those hurdles. And as I said, now the benefit of it is outweighed that, so that's great. But it's always good to touch upon those things. Okay, I've got a question down here from Mark. So how have you found that Viva has helped supported cultural objectives around diversity, inclusion and is an enabler or a driver?
Well, that's a good question. That is a really good question. So Beazley are extremely inclusive as an organisation. We are very sensitive to that area, and we take it extremely seriously. And Jack's worked with us, so he knows, you know, the diversity of Beazley and the culture that we have. It's difficult to answer how effective it's been, because we already are extremely inclusive. We already communicate and we celebrate inclusivity, but it has brought people closer together, I guess. It has opened more channels for us to be more inclusive. We haven't done any analytics around whether we're any better at it with Viva or before or after. It's a good question. So yeah, that's about as much as I can say about that part of it, I think.
Yeah, it is a great question, that. And I think, like you said, Bob, it's wonderful to work with an organisation like yourselves, because you are already so inclusive, and those things are already kind of at the forefront of what you're doing. And you know, if you go onto the Beazley website, you can see that culture of being inclusive and diverse is
just runs through our veins.
Yeah, it really is. It's, you know, if you go on, you can see all of the things that you do to do that. So rather than talk about it from a Beazley perspective, I'm going on and on about my blog, but I wrote a blog post all about diversity and inclusion using Microsoft Viva. So there's a whole load of different ways you can do it, and each sort of module or pillar has its own way of looking at that. So having things like, so Viva Topics, for example, you could have topic cards which are all about diversity and inclusion. So if someone wants to know who's best to go and talk to about diversity inclusion, or you have an employee resource group on it, you could have a topic card that could come up in a Teams conversation, be posted on a news article in Viva Engage, etc. Quickly connect with those people, get chatting to them, find informations and articles and policies on it. So it's bringing that information about diversity inclusion to people through Viva Topics. Diversity inclusion in Viva Insights, there's actually a full playbook that Microsoft have written on that. So I think we'll when we send out some information after this webinar, we'll include some information on there. But there's a whole load of sort of additional attributes and things that you can put into Viva Insights to get a real, actually be able to report on it, but in that anonymized way as well, so that you're not singling people out. So I will find some information and we'll send it out there. So diversity inclusion in Viva Learning. It's a really simple one to get your head around, but you can use learning to empower your employees to discover and share a whole mass of content on it. So LinkedIn Learning, I think, already has over 2,000 courses on diversity alone, and that's all accessible. I think a load of it's actually accessible in that free version of Viva Learning. Yeah, obviously, if you get the fully licensed version, you can really make it front and center and have it within Teams channels, surface that learning content and promote it throughout your organization. Diversity inclusion in Viva Connections. This is, like I said, this is where you can promote it through the use of dashboard cards and things like that, and feeds. And then Viva Goals, you could have, in fact, I think, if I remember correctly, there's already some templated OKRs for it. So I think one of them could be increase the company's diversity in recruitment, and then you could have a key result that's increase new starters from diverse groups by 20%, offer 10 internships to a targeted group, and then have a project to audit all of their job adverts and things like that, which then feed into the key result and then the objective above it. And then diversity and inclusion plays brilliantly with Viva Engage or Yammer already. But I could talk for ages on this, so I'll send out some more information on it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Really good. And actually, Marcus also said, can you add the blog location in the chat, please?
Yes, shameless self-promotion. I'm always up for sharing my blog out there.
Okay, so the next question that we have, so Bob, you mentioned that when you had the report come back, that you guys were actually pleasantly surprised about how positive it was, and it was a great like morale booster to keep going. Was there anything else interesting or unexpected that you've been finding so far with the pilot?
Oh, there are so many, Holly. I could probably fill the rest of this webinar up with those findings. I think the one that stood out for me, which is a bit quirky, but certainly stood out for me, and I think probably Jack will recall this one, was that at the commencement of the lockdown, you know, so the pandemic hit, lockdown kicked in. We were already prepared. We were already heavily reliant on Microsoft stack of products, and it was fairly seamless. But what it identified, what stood out straight away, was a product like Microsoft Teams was almost exclusively reducing our reliance on internal email communication by about 40%. So suddenly we had a product in our suite that was taking away some of the anguish that our engineering teams had with the use of general chit chat using email as, you know, one-to-one chats. This they thought was a fantastic achievement. They absolutely thought was a fantastic achievement. So as we're running through the pilot, we started to notice, and as the pandemic continued, we started to notice that people's use of Teams gradually diminished from its 40% down to sort of 10 to 15%, and it was quite significant, and we wanted to really understand why. So that generated a little bit of a Q&A and a bit of and the feedback that came from that from the pilot group was they could consider Teams at that particular time to have become intrusive to their day-to-day work. They couldn't step away from it. They felt obliged that they had to, if something popped up on the screen, they had to answer it straight away. What we realised was then the fact that actually we hadn't been very good at reinforcing the benefits of Teams and using Teams. We just expected the users to adopt this particular application and drive it themselves. So what that led to us was developing a training program that included how to use Teams more effectively, explaining to people how to communicate your availability. You know, people didn't even understand that you could change the flag to say you were available or unavailable. To look into Viva Insights to show them what they were doing, and then to start to use focusing time to actually block out times in their diary where they wouldn't be in. Once we did that piece, it shot right back up to 45% again. It was quite weird to watch, but what it done was what it did show very clearly was that while the product suite was really great, it needed us to provide some continued and positive reinforcement to drive that capability forward. Now, once we did that, they all talk about how effective and how great those bits are. They love those bits. They love the fact that focus time can be used to block out their diaries automatically, because it automatically goes and finds some space, and they love that. So that was one of the most interesting things that came out of our early findings.
Brilliant, thank you. Got another question down here. So can you personalize praise categories within Viva? So our organization would like to link praise categories to values and behaviors of organization rather than generic categories available out of the box. Thanks.
You know what? I don't think you can, but you absolutely should be able to do that. It's absolutely the way that you should do praise, is link it to your company's existing values. If you've got a set of core values, it was great, because then being able to report on that and see which values you're actually getting, people are getting praised on more than less. If you could then integrate that into Viva Insights, Holly, got loads of great feedback to give to the teams.
Oh
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will double check it, but I don't think you can at the moment. But that would be a really, really great feature. So we will push that back up through the Microsoft channels and get some people listening to those ideas.
Yeah, we have had a look at that as well, Jack, and we can find a way of doing that. So
yeah, we can definitely push
good.
it back up. That is no problem at all. So we have touched upon this earlier, so this might be a very quick answer to this. But the next question was, Viva's not really just an IT play, as it's very much the business. So who else has been involved from the business side to bring them on the journey?
We've tried to include as many people across the business as we possibly can. We have reached out for champions who'd like to be involved in specific elements, and we've had with different degrees of success, but mostly on the positive side, people have wanted to be involved. We've obviously at what we call our talent management people, HR, they are involved. I think finance, they absolutely love it. The C-suite, obviously, it's key core for them, and they like to be involved, and they will help shape it moving forward. I guess as IT, we're just the custodians of the tech. That's all we are. But for us, the business in general, who will effectively make it work. So we've tried to involve as many different people across the business, and that's really important. That level of feedback that you get is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, ultimately, a lot of the Viva modules are kind of, they're not that technically difficult to get implemented at all. It's more, like you say, it's getting the other areas of the business involved. It all needs to be backed up with really strong adoption and change management.
Yes,
and that's where the key to it is, I think.
Yeah, I think in truth, probably the one that needs the most user interaction or needs to spread out most, and please, Jack, tell me if I'm speaking rubbish, is probably the topics area. Yeah. The Viva topics area can be as big or as small as you want to make it. But I think that's the area that needs the most involvement and benefits from the most involvement.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree.
Yeah, well, this comes on quite nicely to my next question, because you mentioned there about adoption, change management, and that sort of thing. So obviously Nasstar is a fantastic Microsoft partner. I work with them across many of my customers. So Bob, for you, what role did Nasstar play throughout this process, from the workshops to the wider rollout? What's your thoughts?
So they've been great. I mean, Nasstar have been absolutely great in helping us to get where we are today. So their expertise they have brought to us has been absolutely transformational in helping us understand not only the capability of the suite, but helping us understand perhaps what direction we would benefit from travelling first. It is not a minor undertaking. It's actually, like I said before, it's quite a journey, and you need a good partner if you're going to undertake a journey like this. So when you recommended Nasstar to us, we struck lucky. We got really lucky. I've been really impressed with the whole team. They've all been a great bunch of guys. They've all stepped up. You know, we're not an easy organisation to work with sometimes. You need to be patient with us sometimes. But I've been absolutely impressed with the whole team, and I'm going to embarrass him, but particularly with Jack, because I've worked with him quite closely now for over a year, and it's been a great partnership.
Thanks, Bob.
You're
making me blush.
But it is so important, and that's why Microsoft have these funded workshops for eligible customers to work with partners, because particularly for this sort of scenario, working with a great partner like Nasstar is so important to have success. No matter what the tool is, where it's come from, what brand, etc. Having that proper plan of rollout, what's important to your business as well, because every business is different, and having that good adoption change management plan and winning the hearts and minds of the business is the key to success.
You know, one of the greatest attributes, I think, and I won't dwell on it too much, but they wanted to be involved. Nasstar wanted to be involved with Beazley. They wanted to understand how we work. They wanted to understand what made us tick. That made a big difference, because ordinarily you can engage with organisations that actually just want to take your money and run. But I can honestly say, that isn't the guys that I've worked with over the last year, or the company that I've worked with. They've been really, really good. They've gone above and beyond in many regards.
Oh, I'm feeling quite emotional. It's a lovely thing to hear. So, Jack, you must be.
It's true. It's true.
But it's lovely to hear
my
that.
Camera off while
I'll send you my address later for the case of champagne. Yeah.
Oh, and then finally, my last question here, and if anybody else has got any questions on the call, now be time to pop them in before we wrap up. What licensing have you chosen to go with?
Well, we're an E5 customer anyway, so we've got that whole free piece, but we're full Viva Suite. And we've just renewed our EA agreement. I think we've gone for a 5-year term instead of a 3-year term. So I think we've just purchased about 4,000 Viva Suite licenses.
Perfect. And what made you decide going for the full Viva Suite as opposed to for going for components?
The truth of it, it's really difficult to start to unpick it. The worst thing you can do, and I don't want people to go away from this thinking, oh, I've got to spend money with Microsoft, but we've discovered the worst thing you can do is show the organisation the capability of something, get them all engaged, and then say, oh, you've got to pay extra for this bit, extra for that bit. You can have this bit, but you can only have 20% of this bit. So we went in to negotiate with you guys at Microsoft quite hard, and I won't go for another conversation. So we chose to go for the full suite so we could deliver the full capability. I guess that's how much we believe that it will be transformational for us. So
perfect, brilliant. Well, that was all the questions that I had, and I don't think there's any other questions on the chat, but I mean, I think Jack, you had a few more slides to go through, but if anybody else has any questions, just pop them in.
Yeah, I'll run through the rest of the slides, but like you said, if anyone throws a question in, Holly, just butt in and we'll cover it. So talking of licensing, this was the slide on licensing, the Viva Suite versus the individual. Like I said, until I believe it is July this year, this is the costing for the Viva Suite license. And then here you've got the sort of individual components. Most of them are £3 or Viva Gold is a bit more. Viva Sales is kind of a different thing. But like I said, if you've got a sales play in your organization, then it's a really, really incredible product. But basically, like I said, if you're going to take at least 2 of these premium modules, then it's worth going for the suite license, unless if it's totally valid, if you're like, we need Viva topics in our organization and that's the one for us and we're not even thinking about the other ones yet, then you can pick and choose which ones you want. These are just a quick go into some of this is kind of like the pilot that we've been doing with Beazley, but we've actually included, at the time it was only 4 modules, wasn't it, Bob? But now there's like 6 out or 7. But yeah, so you can pick and choose different modules with us, and we can design a pilot around that. We do things like Viva Insights training program, based all around the application. So we'll run through things like, what is Viva Insights? What access and permissions do you need? What the daily digest email is, the daily commute, and then do like a day in the life of someone who's working using Viva Insights. We also do a training program based around becoming a Viva Insights analyst and using that sort of back end of the database, creating queries, custom queries, going through that slightly painful process of doing the organizational upload that we talked about earlier, Bob, and things like that.
That's an old slide you got there, Jack.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's all now Viva Insights. I need to update that. Good spot, Bob. Cheers. So yeah, so that's one of the things that we can offer. That's like a 2-day workshop for both of those. We also offer a Nasstar Viva Insights managed service. So this is where we put Viva Insights into your organization. This is the premium level, so you're getting that leadership level insights, and then we'll go through something called the ways of working assessment, which gives you, I think, 12 or 14 different areas to focus on. We'll look at the ones that you maybe aren't performing so well in, the ones that maybe you are but could do with a bit of work, and then, like Bob said, you might be surprised and be like, we're actually really good at this. But then we'll go through adoption and change management, so we'll help you implement change across your organization using the information that we get from Viva Insights, and do it and have that sort of weekly, bi-weekly or monthly or quarterly evaluation and adoption of the changes that we're putting in, and then just continuous optimization. So it's like a recurring service all based around Viva Insights. So I'd said we would talk about what's coming soon to Microsoft Viva. So Viva Pulse is coming. So this is a new app that will enable managers and team leaders to seek regular and confidential feedback on their team's experience. So Viva Pulse uses smart templates and research-backed questions to help managers pinpoint what's working well, where to focus on, and also provides suggested learning and actions to address team needs. This will also allow you to pulse your team with surveys and spot issues really early. It's a quick, snappy way of gaining insights into how your teams are feeling, and it helps managers grow and know where they should be focusing. So providing real-time feedback between managers and employees gives the managers the ability to share the de-identified reports to help teams grow together. So that will be playing when it does come out. I'm not sure on the date yet, but that will play really nicely with Viva Insights. Viva Amplify is coming. Just doing a quick time check. I couldn't see that yet. We've got a few more minutes. So Viva Amplify is going to be a new app that will empower leaders and communicators to elevate their message and reach employees where they are with the consistency and impact that they need. So it centralizes all of your communications and campaigns, offers writing guidance to improve the message and resonance with your employees, and it enables publishing across multiple channels and distribution groups within Microsoft 365. And then I think this is the really powerful thing, it will provide metrics for improvement. So you'll be able to see where you're getting better engagement through all of these different channels that you can communicate to. Coming soon, or actually might be there as of today, is Leadership Corner in Viva Engage. We touched on it earlier, but this is going to be a great feature for leaders to have their own page in Viva Engage. They can post things like Ask Me Anythings. And again, I think just like Viva Amplify, one of the really great features of this is the feedback that the leader will get. So they're going to get insights on how people are interacting with them, what messages they post, how much feedback did they get off it, how much engagement did they get, and things like that. So that's a really cool little feature that's coming to Viva Engage. There are a whole load of other new things coming, but I'd be here for another hour talking if we went through that. So to summarize, I think the best way to start your Viva journey is to look at the workshops funded by Microsoft. Reach out to us, reach out to Holly, and we can check your eligibility and get you on those. They're funded by Microsoft, so it doesn't even cost you a penny. Then look to move on to a pilot group and implement that, which is what we're doing with Beazley. Then expansion and training, and then ACM, so adoption and change management. Just to reiterate that point, it's so important to have great ACM backing up the whole of Viva. So you can get in touch with us. You can chat to us at nasstar.com/contact us/meet now. You can start your Viva pilot or training programs that we have that I talked about by emailing us at inquiries@nasstar.com. We've got more on our website about Viva, and you can apply for a workshop through our website as well. Thank you very much. Have we got any other questions for the last 5 minutes?
Nothing's come through on the chat.
No?
So I don't think so.
In that case, everyone can have, well, 4 minutes back now. So thanks very much, everyone. And thank you very much, Bob and Holly.
Yeah, thanks,
it was
Bob.
great to have you on.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Catch you soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone.